Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Premier Chess Adult Beginner, and this is the summer 2021 session. And I believe, let's see, what's this, week 9. So yeah, we have 2 more weeks, I believe, after this. And yeah, so I didn't get any. I don't think I got any submissions this week from anyone. So I figured I'd just take a couple from Adam's friend. Adam's not here, unfortunately. He messaged me, but I got a few games from that I was playing his friend, Lorne. And yeah, we're gonna go through these. A couple of these are a little bit quick, but I guess it shows you how sometimes you can do miniatures even in a correspondence game. Um, does anybody know really quick? What's the definition of a miniature?
Sorry, what is the terminology?
It's a miniature.
Oh,
What's it?
like a really
20
short
moves or
game?
less.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's 30 moves. Sometimes it's even 20 moves, and sometimes it's even 10 moves or less. So it could be really quick. So yeah, usually pretty exciting. Usually they make big blunders, and they just can't recover. So, all right. So this first game is I'm black and Lorne is white. So let's see how this went on. This is a 14 move miniature. So let's see what happened here.
So Danilo,
Go ahead.
this is something you agree upon in advance, how many moves there will be?
No. This is just what happened. No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought this was like, okay, got it.
No. Definitely not agreed. No. He didn't want to lose. I forced him to lose. I forced him to resign. So yeah.
I still don't understand. What is a miniature? I'm not understanding.
It's just a very small game. That's it. It's because most games on average I think like last about 30 to 40 moves, right? Most games, a good size game. But if they're extra small, like less than 20 moves, they're called a miniature. Sometimes games go on even more than that.
When you say miniature and 20 moves, what does that mean? You stop the game in the middle and see who's winning?
No, that means either one person was checkmated or one person resigned.
I think you're
Oh,
saying
it's-
small.
You don't
Yeah.
agree to a
Quick is a
miniature.
better description.
It's
Yeah, so the
something that
game,
happens.
the game just ends. The game is over, right? Because
Oh, I
it's
see.
so
It's
yeah.
something, right.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's just so
I
quick. Yeah.
misunderstood.
So all right, yeah. So let's see. So he went E4. So anybody who took my class, what's my normal response to E4? Anybody remember? What do I always respond?
B6.
No.
E5,
Say again.
E5.
I heard D5 or C5. What'd you guys say? C5 is my always response. I'm so boring and so rote and routine when it comes to regular chess. That's why I tell you guys why I like chess 960, because you fall into this rut. I could play D5, but I just don't like it. And E5 is just too much symmetrical. And F5, that kind of weakens this diagonal, so I don't want to do that. So C5 it is. I always play that. Knight F3, very good, normal developing move.
Is that
towards the center.
is that the Sicilian?
Very good.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
this is the Sicilian defense. Yeah, that's a very common, good response to E4. And then knight C6. So I respond with also developing towards the center, controlling the center, right? D4, a very common continuation for white. So this would be the open Sicilian where the exchange happens. C takes D4, knight takes D4. So now this knight stays here for a while. So you remember that I think I mentioned to some of you that one thing that I noticed with a lot of people when they start learning chess is that if they see a capture, they make the capture, right? But sometimes it's not always good to make the capture, right? Because you have to think, is this going to improve my position or improve my opponent's position, right? So here's a possible capture I could do, but I don't do it, right? I keep it there. I keep the tension there, right? And as I like to say, if you maintain tension, or pressure on the board, sometimes your opponent just cracks, right, under pressure. So maintain pressure or tension can be a good thing. So here, yeah, I don't take. Also, another reason. What's another reason why I wouldn't take the knight? Anybody can tell me? Why do you think?
It allows
He
this
would
queen to develop.
capture.
Okay, so I heard, who said that, Monty?
Yeah.
So you say it allows his queen to develop, okay. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, so if I already capture here, yeah, now his queen develops, and normally I say it's not a good idea to develop your queen too early, but here it's a little bit different, right? Because that now I have no more knight on b8 to scare away the queen, and so this queen is relatively safe. It's pretty safe here, and it's got a nice central location where it exerts a lot of influence, right? So yeah, and what'd you say, Genevieve? You said something?
Oh, no, that's what I said.
Same thing? Okay. So yeah, so that's a major reason why I would not want to exchange, because now I don't have any piece developed right now, and my opponent has a nice centrally placed queen, right? So that would be improving my opponent's position if I were to trade, right? So I don't want to do that. So I keep it at as is. So e6, this would be, so there's a lot of continuations for black here. E6 is my favorite. Also, if possible, is d6. That's pretty common. Yeah, e6 and d6 are pretty much the most common here. So I go e6, and now knight c3, good natural developing move. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. I
Sure.
understand the point about it furthering the white's ability to develop the queen. On the
Mhm.
other hand, if you don't take, the possibility is that the knight moves away, and so you miss your chance to even things up. Why are you
So
not worried about
move
that?
away where? To b3 or back to f3, you're saying?
Well, yeah, or maybe to a b5. I mean, wouldn't stay
Mhm.
there for long, I guess.
Yeah,
But
so I mean, I'm not really worried about it. So for example, okay, so right here, right, you're saying if I didn't take, he would go to b5. All right, so what is he really threatening on b5? Is he threatening anything?
No,
no.
black can play A6 and chase him back away.
Right. So what is he really threatening, right? So if I, I could even, yeah, let's say
Okay,
I
so
just
then white plays knight to d6.
yeah, so he could do that, check, be a little bit annoying. Then I could just take here, right? He takes, and now how would we continue? What do you think? This looks kind of menacing with the queen all the way up here, but in fact, it's not really that menacing. I think this is a premature attack, right? Like he's attacking with one queen, and the rest of his pieces are not doing anything at the moment, right? So I think this is an example of a premature attack. So how can black deal with this? What do you think?
Queen to A5.
Okay, queen a5 check. I don't know about that. Now you're giving white a chance to block and attack the queen, right? So now kind of I just helped white develop a piece a little bit, and now I have to move my queen again, right? So that might not be the best. What else?
Knight to B4.
Knight to b4. No. Why is that not such a good move?
Well, we can defend against the knight.
Yeah, so knight's hanging here. Yeah. Okay, what else?
Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
Hey, Danilo,
Yeah.
not to belabor queen to A5, but if he does bring the bishop out, which is expected, then
Yeah.
you can go queen to E5, and now you're threatening his queen, and I'd be happy to exchange queens right then.
Right. That's true. You could do that. Yeah, that's true. That would scare away the queen or result in an exchange. Let's say he exchanges here. All right. And now let's say now this knight maybe can be pushed back a little more. So I mean it seems like white is a little bit on the attack, on the offensive here, right? Now white has very nice open lines for his bishop, and the knight's being kicked around a little bit. So it's a little bit annoying. So yeah, I wouldn't want to even give white that, right? So anybody else? What other ideas do you have?
Well, you could, queen to d7. I mean, just see if,
E7, you mean?
e7. Sorry,
Yeah. So that's what I had in mind. Queen e7, right? Very simple. Challenging the queen, and I mean, what is he going to do? He could try to be really annoying and push that. That's possible. Maybe you try to maybe try to undermine that, or maybe you try to prove that this pawn is going to be very much overextended, and then maybe you can kind of do this, threatening knight e4 and then winning the pawn, and then it's going to be just easy to extricate yourself from that and push the pawn. So yeah, so my point with all this is that it looks kind of menacing, but sometimes in these kind of attacks, when you go so early and you don't include the other pieces, it ends up being fruitless, a very powerless attack. So
But he's still ahead of knight.
no, he's not ahead of knight. No, there's an equality. Three minor pieces versus 3 minor pieces. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So and also let's say he does capture the queen here. Maybe you can capture with the king, something like that. And now, because now that the queens have come off the board, it's a little bit safer and it's a little bit easier to have your king not being castled, right? So
wouldn't it be better to take with the knight?
you could take with the knight too. Let's say, yeah, you could take with the knight, definitely. And that just kind of prepares the d5.
And permits him to castle.
Yeah, and you could still castle, but usually, when the queens come up the board, the necessity of castling is significantly less, right? It's
Yeah,
not as
but
imperative to castle.
Danilo, I said he was up at night. I meant bishop.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has extra bishop, but I'm saying 3 minor pieces, I mean, is equivalent to 3 minor pieces, right? Roughly. So 2 knights and a bishop, pretty much the same as 2 bishops and a knight, right? So it's still
Is that
equality.
way? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. I don't know. I guess I'm not thinking straight.
It's okay. It's okay. So still
You're
equality.
right.
So yeah. So all I'm saying is that it looks kind of menacing, but I think this is just premature, and especially knight d6, pretty premature. Okay.
Well,
so e6.
also
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Leonard.
I was saying it, the white has moved the knight twice, without developing anything else.
Right. He's moving his knight too many times, and so if he did do that, like yeah, and then he eventually trades it away, right? Yeah, I still have an extra piece here developed. So if he takes my queen, so you can say that now black is ahead in development. Now black has the only piece, actually two pieces that's developed, and white has none, right? So you could say that black has an advantage already from all that, right? So not really something to celebrate for white. All right, so let's go back. All right, so e6, and then my next move is exactly to prevent this sort of move, right? So that's why I go a6, right? In this type of opening. So e6 and a6 are kind of preventing knight from jumping onto d5 or b5, right? And now you can see that the dark squares here are a little bit weakened. So I'm preparing in this variation of the Sicilian, you prepare to bring the queen on c7, and then you occupy and control the dark squares around there. All right. So then, okay. So now he goes f4. So now it seems like he's trying to clamp down on my control. So now I don't want to allow this. I don't want to allow this e5 push. That would be too much for me. So what do you think I played to prevent that e5 push?
Well, you could do e5.
Okay, so if I do
So-
e5, that's true. Or sorry, d5. You mean? Do you mean d5
Yeah,
or e5?
d5.
Yeah,
d5. Sorry.
Okay. So I could do d5. All right. So I think, well, it doesn't really prevent it. He can still go. He can still move up, and he's still got a nice advanced pawn here, controlling these 2 squares. Another idea why I might not want to do that is because now, if he takes, now I have an isolated pawn here, which can be kind of weakening, kind of. So instead, I mean, I play again. When you're pushing pawns, right, you always want to be very careful because you can never move your pawns backwards, right? Every pawn move is a permanent move. So I'm very
Well, how
wary.
about e5? I mean,
Oh,
actually,
e5 here.
Yeah, how
E5
about-
here? So let's see here, e5. So you could do that. Let's say, what does he do? I mean, yeah, you could take. I mean, this pawn is a little bit of a weakness. You know, it's you can say it's kind of like a backward pawn. What does that mean, a backward pawn? How would you all define that?
Maybe say something for the end game.
Say again?
Something for the end game. I mean, it's not going to be. It doesn't have it doesn't have any defending pawns, so there isn't.
Well, that's the definition of an isolated pawn, right? This pawn is isolated in the sense that no pawns on the C file or the E file to protect it. But the idea of a backward pawn is that currently I cannot push it because the D5 squares is controlled by white completely, and so I would just lose it. So that's the idea of it backward. Now, this is kind of a weakness, right? And it's doubly weak because there's no pawn on the E file or D file. So it's weak because it's a backward pawn, and it's weak because it's an isolated pawn. So basically 2 weaknesses there. So yeah, so my response here was simply D6. And apparently the computer doesn't like it, which is kind of funny. Computer wants me to play knight F6, which is okay, but I really don't like this this push here, right? Because now, where's my knight gonna go, right? I can't go to H5, I can't go to G5, the queen's controlling everything. Can't go to E4. If I go to D5, right? Now he's got knight takes, and now look at this. Now I have doubled isolated pawns, even worse. So really, if he pushes, now my only safe spot is to go back to my original square, which I don't want to do. So for that reason, I chose D6, right? That was my main choice, my main reason. All right, so then he goes bishop E3. So queen C7, that's my that was my goal, bring the queen on C7, right? And control these squares. Also bring a queen on. This is like the half open C file. So this is like my C file to control. So I'm going to eventually want to bring my rook here and exert much more control over here on the C pawn. All right.
What do you think the point of White's move to E3 was? The moving the bishop. I don't get
bishop
that.
B3. So yeah. So what do you think?
Like,
what do you think is a reason for doing that?
I'm asking the question. I don't know.
Well, give me a reason. Give me an idea. Why do you think he did that?
Well, maybe
one,
if he moves the knight out of the way, or maybe he wants to castle on the queen side.
Right. Maybe
or...
his intention is to castle this way, right? If he wanted to castle king side, perhaps he would have moved his F bishop, right? So yeah, probably he wants to evacuate all the pieces here so he can castle and also solidify protection of the D4 knight, right? So that's probably why he did that. So let's see, queen C7. So G4. Now this announces to me that he does not want to castle king side, right? It announces to me, and you guys remember this? I think I showed you a game where I played this same guy, and he did this exact same thing. Do you guys remember that game? And he was very excited about doing this pawn storm, which looks kind of intimidating, right? But again, the way I play is very prophylactic and very preventative, you know. And so I'm not afraid, you know, and all I do is try to restrict his pawn movement. So that was my choice, H6 to restrict G5, right? And if he goes G5, I'm actually happy, right? Because H takes and then F takes, and now I have a nice half open H file. Now my rook automatically becomes activated. So pushing immediately would not be a good idea, I think. All right, so he goes bishop H3, which is a little bit strange. I don't know what the bishop is doing out there. Probably better would have been like bishop D3 maybe, or maybe just bring the queen up and then castle queen side, something like that. All right. So yeah, bishop H6, a little bit strange. Also, he's blocking his H pawn, which probably not a good idea either. All right, so knight F6. All right, queen F3. Okay, so now he's got a pretty nice position. He can castle either side, but he's probably want to castle queen side since he pushed all these pawns forward, trying to intimidate me, right? Bishop D7. So I'm calmly, you know, I think I remember when I showed you guys this last, I think Richard, you said how my position looks very cramped, right? I remember you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of does, but slowly I'm making improvements, right? I develop my bishop. I'm going to bring my rook over. So now I'm strengthening my control over the c file, and I'm going to push this b pawn. So I'm making incremental improvements in my position, right? And I'm making it so that it's not easy for him to break through, right? So even though I look cramped, I think yeah, I'm very slow and very deliberate when it comes to these kind of positions. So bishop d7, a3, so rook c8, right? Very calmly. Now I'm controlling the c file when I move this knight. Yeah, any questions?
You didn't
Why
want a
didn't you-
castle.
Why didn't you castle?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I could have castled. That's true. Yeah, so in this position, I'm thinking, is it safe for me to castle? Right? I don't know if I figured that it's safe for me to castle here. I always tell you guys, castle early, castle often, right? But sometimes you look at a position and you're like, you know what? I think it's just safer for my king in the center. Sometimes it happens. And I think this is the sort of position. Like I don't want to castle king side. These pawns are going to rip open lines pretty quickly. And I don't know, castling king side looks kind of weird because I already have these open areas on the king side, on the queen side, sorry. So for the moment, it seems like the center is the safest place for me to be. So yeah, that was a value judgment on my part. So let's see what happens. Rook c8. So he castles queen side. All right, and now, also the other reason why I don't want to castle queen side is because I'm planning to push the b pawn, right? And so if my king was over here, that would not be a good spot. Now this bishop is getting ready to open, the queen's getting ready to come down. It's not comfortable. So it just seems like the center is the safest. Yeah.
So right now, in your mind, do you have anything planned beyond, over the next like 4 moves? Or is it, I mean, I guess that's why I can barely think 2 moves ahead. I'm just wondering
right.
how well you or whether you have a strategy in mind of how to attack the king or how to.
Yeah, so when I look at a position like this, I mean, first thing I think about is getting all my pieces into the attack. So the only piece I didn't develop yet is the bishop. I mean, I just bring it here. Basically, I guess I'm slowly strengthening my position and eliminating any weaknesses. And I think if he didn't let's see. Yeah, so his next move was taking here. So he made a very dynamic decision. But if he didn't do that, let's say he did a simple move, like let's say he just moves the rook over here, then I probably would have taken here, take back, and now I bring the bishop on the c6, and now my bishop has beautiful control over this entire diagonal. So yeah, and then I would probably want to push these pawns. So slowly, I'm making improvements, right? So the idea, I think, what's important when you're in a position like this is not to rush, right? Slowly strengthen your position, make sure you eliminate any weaknesses. And sometimes your opponent, like sometimes people when they're playing and they're in a position like this where like how many moves has these knights been in tension? How many moves? We're already on move 12 and we haven't, this knight capture has not happened, right? So I think he's beginning to crack because his next move is knight takes c6, and now you can see the computer gives this a double question mark blunder, right? And now, so the position actually went, the computer gave him a 0.7 advantage, or almost a pawn advantage. And now just with that knight capture, all of a sudden now the computer's giving me over a pawn advantage. So that's kind of interesting, right? And I think the reason is because now with the bishop on c6, now I have this entire diagonal, and the queen's on the diagonal, the rook's on the diagonal. So it really, I think it opens things up for me and makes things easier. All right, so yeah, you got to be very slow, very deliberate, and yeah, just eliminate weaknesses. So all right, so let's continue. All right, so then he went f5. Okay, here, black to move. I made one move and he resigned. What do you guys think? What move did I make?
Okay, give us a minute.
And what's amazing about this position in this game is that I think most of you looking like just a couple of moves ago, you're like, my position looks so cramped. You know, how could this possibly yield any positive result, right? Any benefit, right? But after just a few moves, right? And then F5, yeah, I have a pretty good move here. What do you think?
Knight takes the pawn on E4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so knight takes E4. Okay, so then what if knight takes? Now what are you gonna do?
Bishop takes the knight and you're threatening checkmate.
Bishop takes, queen takes, white is safe. He's protecting the pawn fine.
Oh.
And now he's a bishop ahead.
So maybe not that.
Okay, what else? What else?
Maybe if you take with the bishop first instead of the knight.
Take with the bishop. That's what I did. Bishop takes E4, white resigns. Why did he resign? Why do you think?
Oh, because if knight takes the bishop, you have queen takes the pawn checkmate.
Yeah, so this knight is pinned, we can say, to the c pawn, right? This knight cannot move due to this queen and rook battery, right? Very simple moves. All I did was put my queen on the half open file and then bring my rook on the half open file. And then whenever this knight moved, my queen will be coming down on his king immediately, right? And automatically, once I move this bishop out of the way, this knight becomes pinned. Therefore, it's not protecting the e4 pawn. Therefore, I can take it. And basically, now there's a skewer here, and he has to move the queen away, and I win the exchange, right? And winning pretty easily. So yeah, 14 move miniature right here. Yeah, so very interesting, right? So this is my style, right? This is my style, very slow, very deliberate. I mean, even I was also looking at, like, once I am able to push this d pawn, I'm also looking at this knight right here is only protected by the b pawn, right? So I even have this possible bishop takes a3 move, right? And of course, if he takes my bishop, I just take his knight, and then I win a pawn, and now I'm that much closer to his king, right? So yeah, it's interesting how I think once you make your moves slow and deliberate, and you slowly improve your position becomes very strong, and the tactics just kind of flow naturally.
Oh, wait a minute, though. I mean,
Yeah.
if he could have, he did resign, but so how would he would have been down a queen, right?
No, well, let's say, okay, let's play on. He could have played maybe like queen f2. Maybe I take here. And now maybe I would probably, let's see here. Oh, I would probably do knight up here, knight e4, right? Again, actually, no, you can't. Sorry. You can't do that because the queen's blocking. So yeah, no knight e4. Maybe like just opening up my bishop. Yeah, that would probably be the best here. So now I'm threatening bishop takes a3, right? And if he takes, I just take the knight. So yeah, that kind
Wait
of
a
stuff.
minute. If you take the knight, he takes your queen, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that bishop takes a3, and if he takes my bishop,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Now the knight's unprotected, right? So yeah, very simple. And again, if you notice, I got my bishop outside of the pawn chain, right? Before I played d5. This is also very important, right? Because now look at all these pawns on light squares, and I have my dark squared bishop, which can move around very nicely, right? It has nice mobility.
Mm.
So that's also another theme here. All right. Any questions? I'll go on to the next one. All right. Cool. All right. All right, so this is the same guy. I am white here. And this is another miniature. This is a 15 move miniature. So he lasted one more move. So let's see what happened. All right, so c4. What's the opening, the name of this opening? English opening, yeah. I like English opening. I play English opening a lot when I'm white. Number one, I never play e4 just because I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the tactics, too dynamic, too crazy, too sharp. So I usually like to play d4, but if I'm playing someone over and over again, which I'm playing this guy over and over again, I start playing more c4 because I find that a lot of people are not used to c4, right? It's like very uncommon territory for most people. So I like to bring people in uncommon territory, make them feel uncomfortable as soon as possible. All right,
Well, that
c4.
would have succeeded with me.
Yeah. c4, e5. Okay, so this looks kind of like a reverse Sicilian, right? Sicilian would be e4 and c5. So right, so very, very similar. All right, so knight c3 towards the center, right? Very standard. All right, so bishop b4. That kind of looks like a strange move. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a mistake. It just looks like a strange move to me. So what would you guys play? If somebody played that you were white and somebody played bishop b4, what would you play here?
A3.
A3.
Okay, so apparently you guys are not afraid of having double pawns, right? So maybe he wants to take and give you double pawns, but I really have this you know, visceral irritation of having doubled pawns, so I avoid it as much as possible. I really don't like it. And so I don't even want him to give me a bishop, even if it's a bishop trade for a knight. I don't like doubled pawns that much. So for that reason, I immediately move my knight away. Knight d5, and immediately attacking his bishop, right? So it's true, I do move my my knight twice, but the trade-off is that he also has to move his bishop twice, right? So kind of negates that. All right, so now he goes bishop c5. Okay, so now I continue developing. So if you notice, if I'm playing black, remember I do the e6 move. So I'm basically doing the exact same thing I do for white. e3, and then a3, and then queen c2, right? So basically pretty much the exact mirror image of what I do as black. So e3, knight c6, a3, right? I continue. That's my favorite variation, my favorite opening. a3, d6. Okay, so what would you play here? What do you think this position necessitates? What do you think?
Knight to f3.
Okay, knight f3. Okay, I do not like that move. Why?
Black can push the pawn to e4 and
Right,
force the knight to move
e4,
again.
and now where are you going to go with your knight?
Have to go back to the original square.
Yeah, all these are controlled, and then if you move to d4, you just lose a pawn here, right? So you're forced to go back, and that would be a very unfortunate retreat, right? So what's another move here?
Pin the knight with the queen to a4.
Queen to a4. I mean, it seems pretty bold to bring the queen out so quickly. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, he could just unblock the pin, and now he's just threatening a discovery anywhere.
Yep.
I think it's a little bit risky.
Yep.
All right, what else?
How about bishop f2 or f3?
Oh, bishop e2, you mean?
a2, yeah. Can't
Okay.
read.
Okay, so bishop e2 is interesting. It does kind of leave the g pawn a little bit weak. How about this? How about I mean, I like the move knight f3. The problem is e4. So let's say you really want to play knight f3. What would you play first?
D pawn to d3.
D3.
Right, d3. So you want to make sure that your piece is not kicked away so quickly. So why not do d3? Right, very nice move, very logical move. No problem with that. And now you're just preparing for knight f3, bishop e2, and then castle, right? Very simple. So that's a good way to solve that problem. But I didn't do that. What I saw immediately was this bishop out here hanging out. And I'm like, I can attack this bishop, right? So why don't I start attacking this bishop like this? So I began being annoying right here. b4, bishop b6. And now I have this.
C5. No.
Oh, well, no, c5, no.
Yeah, that loses the pawn.
Yeah, loses the pawn. Also, now my knight's not protected.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be a little bit premature. So you got to be careful about being too overzealous about your attack, right? So bishop b6. So now I have this diagonal that's becoming open. So why not place a bishop there? So bishop b2, right? Very nice attack. Also, what I want to do is I really want to push this pawn d4 And then after I have a pawn on d4, now you can do c5, and guess what? The bishop's now trapped. Right? I think this is exactly what happened to Richard, right? In one of your games with so yeah, be careful of that. Bishop
You don't
trapped here.
forget these things, do you?
No way. I remember many things. So yeah. So this is a nice diagonal. Yeah, and I'm trying to strengthening d4 so that I can push
Where are you gonna go?
on d4. Okay. So bishop b2, knight c to e7. Okay, and okay, so I took on e7, although the computer wants me to play knight takes here. I don't know. It might be. I mean, let's see. Yeah, I mean, it might be a good move,
Yeah,
but
but then
now I'm kind of activating his rook here, right? So I don't really want to do that, even if I got a bishop for the
regular
knight,
broccoli if they don't have that. Honey.
you know. So yeah. So I played instead, and I want to keep this thread alive of d4 and then c5 trapping the bishop. So that's why I didn't want to do that just yet. So I take knight takes e7. So now I cannot do d4 just yet. Why? Why can I not do d4 just yet to try to do my plan over here?
because if e5 takes e5, the pawn can't take.
Right, the
The
pawn
white
can't
pawn
take,
can't
right?
take back.
Yeah, the queen is pinning the pawn, right? So then that would kind of defeat the whole purpose, and now I'm kind of letting him escape here. So I don't want to do that. So I got to be careful. You got to remember, you got to be patient with these things. So now I develop knight f3. And now this is actually a different situation, right? So now if he goes e4, trying to scare away my knight, that would be a mistake. Why?
White can play either the knight or the bishop to d4.
Okay, so yeah, you can move the knight to d4, but there's actually a stronger move here. There's a much
Bishop
stronger
to
move
G7.
Yeah. So look at the bishop. All of a sudden, the diagonal becomes open, right? And this is one reason why I always tell you guys that it's important to develop your knights first, right? Because that weakens the pawn, in this case, the G pawn, right? And now my bishop is can come down, swoop down, and pick up this rook. He takes my pawn, queen takes, and now this rook's going to be gone, and I will be winning. So, yeah. Careful of that. Careful of opening up and activating your opponent's long range fianchetto bishop. All right, so knight f3, f5. All right, so here. So again, I want to do d4, but I can't again because the pawn's going to be pinned by the queen. So now I unblock I unpin the queen. Computer doesn't like this. Computer actually wants me to do c5, which is an interesting move. And then the idea is that if pawn takes, now I can take this pawn. That's kind of the idea. Maybe take it with the bishop, that kind of thing. So yeah, so my bishop is now active and has a nice long diagonal. I'm probably going to bring my other bishop over here and kind of control all the diagonals that way. So cool. All right. So I played bishop e2 because I really want to play d4. That's my plan right here. So knight f6. So now logically d4. And now he goes. So now he kind of sees that I'm trying to trap his bishop right here. So he does c6. And that is a mistake. Why is that a mistake?
Shouldn't he have played to e5? To c5?
Say again?
He should have played to c5, and then you could trade pawns. This
Well,
way.
Oh, you mean he should have played up pawn c5 here?
Right.
Well, I think the computer gives this as a mistake simply because black is dropping a pawn pretty unnecessarily. Like there's no real good reason to drop a pawn here. So I mean I just expected him to take here, and I would recapture, and now maybe here he can just play c6, and now his bishop is fine, right? Perfectly safe and can escape, no problem. So that's what I expected. I don't know why he didn't take it. So he went c6. So I took here, And I don't know why, I don't know what he was thinking, but now he goes, now the natural response is just to recapture here, but he goes knight g4. It's kind of, I don't know, confusing move. Not really sure why he did that. But as you can see, the computer gives me immense advantage, 7.3 pawn advantage. Now I'm going to build a beautiful pawn chain here, which I love doing. E takes d6, attacking the queen and opening up my bishop simultaneously. Queen e6, and now c5, and I am very happy with this. Look at this nice, beautiful pawn chain right here. Bishop d8 and h3, and now after just a couple of moves from the opening and I think unnecessary moves of this bishop, now I have this beautiful pawn chain. I have a very nice diagonal for my bishop, and I just have to bring my rook over here, and my other bishop has a nice diagonal here. Castling is pretty much impossible this way, and so in this position he resigns immediately, which I didn't really expect. It doesn't seem like a resignable position, but yeah, he did that. So 15 moves.
Why do you think he resigned then?
I think I don't know. So he's down 2 pawns, and I don't know. I think this pawn chain is just demoralizing. it's like just looking at this, it's like, what can I do with this? You know, this is just in my camp like a thorn, and I'm not happy. You know, so yeah, that's my guess. All right. Any questions? What do you guys think of this one? Any questions? Everything good? Cool. All right. So yeah. So what do we learn with this one? Let's just go back really quick. So one thing I think I take away is, so moving the bishops out first, right? Weakening the G pawn. I don't really recommend that. And also it just seems like, I mean, this is not really a bad move again, but I don't know. It just seems out there for no particular reason, and it's just easy to kick around now, you know. And so I don't understand why you would want to do that. Kind of helps me, I think. Yeah.
What type of player is this? And at what level? Is this a beginner? Is this a?
I'd say he's probably at the same level as Adam in the group, because they play a lot, these two guys. So yeah. So all right. So let's do the last one real quick. This one's a little bit longer, but let's see if we can get through it. All right. So this is same me and the same guy. I am black here. All right, so e4, c5. So now this is kind of a repeat where you're gonna see pretty much the same opening. See, this is what a lot of people do, right? They just fall into a rut and they play the same opening over and over and over again, you know, for white and black, and it kind of gets a little bit robotic. Okay, so he changes it up. Now he's trying to win a pawn here. He pins my knight to the king, right? So very simple. I break the pin and protect the bishop. Knight c3. So now, you know, every time your opponent has a piece on your side of the board like this, or a knight, you don't want to leave it there. So you want to kick it away as soon as possible, right? So that's what I do. A6, forcing him to make a decision. What do you want to do? You want to take my knight? You want to go back? You want to come back up here, c5? What do you want to do? So make a decision. So he goes all the way back. So that ended up being a fake, a fake out. The bishop e2. So as you can see, I'm just going along with the very same plan, right? This is the half open file. Why not occupy it with my queen and my rook? Very same plan. Bishop e3, knight f6. Okay, bishop f3, rook c8, right? You see similar pattern here. Queen e2, b5, very similar pattern. Okay, so now he goes a4. So a little bit different here. So what do you think I played here?
You push the pawn.
A5.
Yes, definitely. If I took this pawn, would that be a good thing for me? What do you think?
Oh, because then he can take with the rook and he has an open file.
Right, now this rook is activated, and this pawn, look at coming down twice, and it's not defended by anything. And yeah, not so good, not so strong at all. So I definitely do not want to open up this A file for the rook. I definitely want to keep it closed, which is what I did. B4, and the added benefit, of course, is that I'm attacking at the same time. So gaining space with tempo. So very nice. And conveniently, he can't come to either b5 or d5 because I have both of those controlled by a pawn. So he's forced to come back, knight d1. And now I really want to push a5 here to solidify control of this pawn, but I don't do it immediately. Does anybody know why? Why do you think I didn't do that immediately?
I don't know. I would have done that move.
Oh, you would have done it? Okay. So what's the reason?
I
Anybody can.
would have, but you didn't. So what did you do?
well, let me ask you everyone. Why do you all think I didn't do a5 immediately?
Because you didn't want to leave a6 available for the queen to come down and threaten.
Or
the knight?
no, I think there's a better move than queen a6.
Or his knight d4,
Let's say I did a5. What is a good move for him?
the knight to b5.
Definitely. Now I'm basically handing b5 on a silver platter for him. This is a beautiful outpost right here, right? So remember, every pawn move leaves weaknesses, right? Every pawn move is a permanent decision. Be very careful about your pawn moves, right? So on a6, I was protecting b5, controlling it. a5, I no longer am. Now b5 for the knight. Beautiful location, hitting the queen. Also hitting d6. You know, all he has to do maybe is move the knight, castle, and then pile up on here. And this becomes a weakness for me, right? So I don't want to do that for myself. Also, with knight b5, now my queen's forced to get off of the C file. So now I have even less control over this half open file, right? So I don't want to do that. So what do you think I did first? I do want to play a5, but I didn't do it just yet. So what do you think I played first?
I like d5.
So, all right, so d5 here. Okay, not as strong. Why? Why is that not as strong?
He takes and he's threatening he's got two pieces on your knight.
Takes where? Takes the pawn here?
Yeah.
No. I mean, okay, so yeah, I mean, that's one reason I wouldn't want to isolate a pawn, but I think even stronger for him would be maybe just pushing here. Now I'm forced to move this knight somewhere, and it's kind of uncomfortable. I mean, I guess I could move it here, but now I had to deal with this threat, and now he's got an extra move to take this pawn. And now again, now he has control over b5, and now he's ready to jump over here. So I didn't want to do that. So for that reason, I did want to go a5, but remember, I didn't want the knight jumping here, so why not just get rid of the knight immediately? Right? Which is what I did. So I take the knight, trade away the knight. Remember, you know, every time you make a trade, you have to have a good reason to do it, not just trade for trade's sake, right? So this knight, I didn't want to give the b5 square, and I did want to protect this pawn, so trading the knight first was necessary. Bishop takes d4. So okay, so I could have so my idea was to push here, but there actually also ended up being also another reason why I chose to capture the knight. So what's the other reason?
Bishop to a4. Well, no, forget it. No.
No, yeah. What else?
Um,
What's another reason I chose to capture the knight? So so basically what I'm saying is what changed with that knight capture? Something changed.
It also protecting the C2 pawn or something.
Well, I'm opening up the file, right? My knight was blocking my queen. So now not only did I get rid of the knight, which I didn't want to jump to b5, but I also opened up the c file for my queen and rook. Now I have access to the c2 pawn. So now I'm thinking maybe I'll just take here instead of pushing here and saving the pawn. Maybe I'll just take here and invade the 7th rank, which is what I did. I like that move. Let's see what the computer. I'm just curious what the computer thinks here. Ah, the computer wants me to push here. That's interesting. All right, interesting move. Not my style, but okay. So yeah, so queen takes c2. Another idea is, so if he took on a6, which he did, so he went queen takes a6. So what was my follow-up? I had a follow-up move here. What did I do here?
So you do knight takes e4.
Very good. Yeah, so now I have my knight and the queen coming down on e4, right? So now I took yet another pawn. Knight takes e4, and yeah, so now if he tries to get like a little bit fancy, let's say he tries to get fancy and he goes knight e3, and he's attacking my queen and maybe trying to push my queen away so that he can take my knight. Actually, that is a horrible mistake. Why?
D7.
Queen d7. Okay, check.
Yeah.
And then king f8, f1, and now what?
And then queen to f2.
Excellent. Yeah, queen f2 is mate, right? So knight e3 results in a forced mate in 2, right? And the bishop was protecting f2, but with the knight on e3, that blocks the bishop, so no longer protection, right? So you got to be careful of those kinds of things. So yeah, knight takes e2, and I'm really happy with my position, right? This rook cannot come over here to challenge me, you know, and if something happens, I can always just give a quick check here. And if I do that, so basically what I'm threatening now is check here on d2 and then pick up the bishop right here, which is unprotected, right? So immediately you can see how quickly White's position is falling apart from my, you know, from my simple opening moves, right? All right, so knight takes e4. So he decides to bring the queen back for protection. And then I'm thinking, what should I do? I'm like, okay, so maybe trading the queens here would be a good idea. Queen takes, bishop takes. All right, so now I want to open up this bishop to come out, right? So now I go d5, and now he has kind of like a passed pawn here. This looks kind of menacing, you know. So he definitely has a possibility, if he plays it right, of getting a queen. So I got to be careful about that. So he starts pushing his pawn. All right, so now I go bishop c5, trying to block the pawn and then eventually capture it. So he goes bishop takes g7, not such a good move. Why? It looks like a free pawn, but it wasn't.
Rook to g8.
Yeah, so rook g8, and now I'm going to pick up the pawn on g2, and my rook's going to be pretty powerful there. So not so good. So yeah, rook g8, bishop e5, but actually I intended on going rook g2, but I actually saw a better move, right? So this is also another reason why every time you make a move, you know, you do have a plan, but sometimes as you're making the moves, you know, first you scan the position and you think, wait, hold on, is there a better move? Sometimes there's a better move that you just missed, and it turns out that here there is a better move. Anybody can find it? What do you think?
Knight to f2.
No, knight f2 and knight takes. And
Oh, okay, so yeah.
What's a better move than taking the pawn? So by the way, my advantage here went from 2.8 in a few moves to all the way up to 7. So I have a 7-pawn advantage basically. So the computer gives me a pretty strong advantage. So why does it do that?
Oh, how about pawn to f6?
Yeah, very good. Pawn f6, right? Controlled by the knight, protected by the knight. Where can the bishop go? Bishop has absolutely no safe squares. Controlled, controlled, controlled. And then up here, controlled by the bishop. Here, controlled by the pawn. This bishop is trapped in the center of the board, right? Not such a common thing, but sometimes it does happen. So yeah, very interesting. So that's one thing. I didn't even see that when I played rook g1. No, sorry, rook g8. But after he went back, then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this bishop has nowhere to go. So yeah, f6. So he takes, bishop takes, knight takes. He saves his pawn G3. I bring the knight back. Beautiful location over there. Why not bring it back? Bishop A6. Okay, so now here's the thing, right? If I go, let's say I go rook A8, which makes sense. You want to block this pawn, but I think that gives him kind of a chance to set up this little blockade here. And now this pawn becomes a little bit pretty annoying. So I didn't want to do that. So instead I go rook C7, right? I don't want to allow this bishop B7. So I go rook C7 and then bring the rook over here. And then I just double the rooks and win this pawn very easily. And you can see this knight is out of play and the rook is out of play. By the way, the knight cannot move anywhere. Controlled by the pawn, controlled by the bishop. And here is controlled by my knight and the bishop. So this knight is immobile. This rook is doing nothing. And this bishop is hanging out over here. So yeah. All right, so rook C7, B3. So he's kind of running out of moves. You can say he's almost in a state of Zugzwang. What does that mean? Everybody know what that means? Zugzwang?
Mm-mm.
Anybody here know what that means?
Nope.
Zugzwang? No? Okay. So Zugzwang is a German word, applies to chess, and it basically means that your opponent has no good moves. Every move that your opponent makes worsens their position, right? So basically, either like a forced checkmate or just, loss of material, that kind of thing, loss of space. So when you run out of good moves, you're slowly moving towards Zugzwang, right? All right.
Can you spell that for us?
Yeah, Zugzwang. Zugzwang.
And if you know German, it's actually Zugzwang.
There you go. Zugzwang. Excellent. Zugzwang. Thank you. I do not speak German. Yeah, so B3. So king E7. So now I'm ready to move my rook over here and just eliminate this annoying pawn over here. Right. So now he goes B3 to kind of give his knight a way out, which is pretty good. Knight B2. Okay, so now my intention was to bring the rook over here, but again, sometimes you need to reevaluate and reassess the position based on what your opponent does. So he moved here onto B2. So now what do you think I did here as a result of that?
Your bishop to D4.
Exactly. Look at these pieces right here on the long square diagonal. My bishop right here just begging to be put on D4, and now beautiful control over the diagonal, threatening both of these pieces that are very weak, right? So knight, bishop D4, rook B1, saving his knight. Now both of these pieces are unprotected, the bishop and the pawn. So now I pick up the pawn very easily. Rook A8, bishop drops all the way back. Bishop, yeah, can't move here, can't move here. I mean, he can move here, but I don't know why he comes all the way back to F1, but he did. Rook takes A5. So now you can see how powerful my rooks are. Very easily going to invade his territory very soon. Okay, knight D3. So it looks like he's attacking my my D3, my B4 pawn. But in fact, that attack is powerless. Why? So I ignore that attack. Rook C2. So why did I ignore that attack? So he takes here, which is a mistake. Anybody can see why that's a mistake?
Bishop to E3 check.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
bishop E3, no.
No, I meant C3,
Bishop C.
C3.
He means bishop
C3,
C3.
yes, very good.
Yeah.
C3, and what is this? A fork, right? Very nice, forking king and knight. So it looks like he can get out of it by attacking my rook with king D1. But what's my best response here?
Knight F2.
Knight F2, no. Now he takes my rook. I take his rook, and then he will save his knight, and yeah, game will go on. Or maybe he even forget about saving the knight. He can just take my bishop. Yeah, so that would be no good. My position would fall apart. All right, what else? What else can black do here? So I really want to take his knight, but I first have to do what's called an in-between move.
Rook to D2 check.
Very good. Very good. Real quick, the in-between move, it's also another German word, Zwischenzug. Richard, does that sound good to you?
Pretty good. Zwischenzug.
Zwischenzug, excellent. Yeah, yeah, Zwischenzug. So it means in between move or intermediate move, right? So I really, really want to take this knight, but I can't because my rook is being attacked. So what do I do first? Save the rook with check, right? A Zwischenzug move usually involves a check, forcing your opponent to respond again. And he goes king c1, right? And now I take the bishop, right? And now he goes, so he goes rook g1. Okay, so now here I have a mate in 3 moves, forced mate in 3 moves. What do you guys think? Can you figure it out?
Bishop to a3 check.
Okay, bishop a3. All right, so I won't move the pieces. See if you can visualize it. Bishop a3 check, rook b2, and now what do you do?
Take with bishop.
You can play rook takes rook.
You can okay, so you can take rook takes rook, but that's not check though. So we want to, yeah, so we want to be
Oh,
strong,
play
right?
bishop takes the rook.
Yeah,
Rook to
yeah, good. Bishop
C-
takes b2 check, forcing king b1, and now checkmate 1 move.
Oh, the rook all the way down to a1.
Right.
Actually, there's 2 ways to mate. Yeah, so
Yeah,
let's
why
play it
didn't you
out.
move your rook to C5?
Okay, so if I went rook c5 here, that wouldn't be checkmate because then the bishop can block, and so it can get messy. I mean, it's gonna be I'm gonna be winning anyway, but still we want to checkmate as quickly as efficiently as possible. So here, bishop a3 check, rook b2, bishop takes b2, king b1. Okay, so now actually I have 2 ways I can checkmate. Anybody can find both ways?
Knight C3.
A1.
Right,
Rook.
knight c3 is mate, and rook a1 is mate. Right, very nice mate there. So yeah, that is my game. 3rd game with Lorne, correspondence game. And as you can see, with like every time I do the Sicilian, right? I you see my style, my plan of action, the setup I'm going for, very prophylactic, very preventative. I just make sure my opponent gains no ground, right? I control all the squares in my camp, and then I slowly improve my position. So yeah. So any questions? What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
that's your style. Is it considered orthodox or unorthodox?
So well, I don't know. I don't know what's an orthodox or unorthodox style, because I heard some people say that your chess style of play often reflects your personality, right? So if you're the type of person, you take risks and you're wild, dynamic, throw all care to the wind and that kind of thing, maybe you're going to be like love sacrifices, brilliant, unsound, crazy sacrifices in chess, right? But if you tend to be in life more of a cautious, very slow moving person and not take wild risks in your life, perhaps you'll be a similar chess player. So in a sense, chess can reveal your personality. So
what can't?
Say again?
Everything can. I'm saying what can't.
Right. So yeah, so this is kind of how I have evolved and developed is I don't really go for the wild, unsound sacrifices. I go for the very slow, calculated moves. And I like to describe myself as like a boa constrictor, and that it gets its prey by slowly constricting, not outright force, right? But slowly constricting every time the prey inhales, it squeezes a little more, right? Inhale, squeeze a little more, right? So that's very similar to how I like to play, right? You slowly creep up and you control more squares in removing points of entry that your opponent can do. And before they know it, they're in a worse position and checkmate is imminent. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Danilo.
Any other questions, comments? All right, cool. So yeah, so send me your games for next week, or else I'll be forced to draw on my archives of my own games. I'd like to see some of your games, so it'd be great if you guys can send me. All right.
Thank you.
So good to see
Thanks,
you all,
everybody.
and I will see you guys next week.
Richard, I'm gonna
Thank
go
you.
rush and look at your move and then go to have dinner.
Yeah, we're about to eat too, so take your time.
Richard
All right.
and I have a good going. Good night, guys.
Have a
Good
great
night,
night,
Good
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.